Morris Flexner, class of 79, will present the Distinguished Alumni Society Award. Morris is a member of the class of 79, former alumni board member, and loyal supporter of the Webb School. He is here today not only to celebrate his 40th class reunion, but to introduce his brother, this year's Distinguished Alumni Award recipient.
All right, everyone, here we go. My dad used to have a saying, "Ain't it great to be alive and be in Tennessee?" I ask you, ain't it great to be alive and be in Tennessee? He also used to say, a day out of Tennessee is a day wasted. And he also used to say, I'd rather have a bottle in front of me than a frontal lobotomy. So you have to choose your John Flexner quotes wisely. I want to start by thanking the Alumni Board and also the Board of Trustees for this prestigious honor. And thank you, Stan. I hope this feedback's not too bad, for reminding me that this place really is about coming home. Just the drive over here, the verdant green in April. Yeah. Is that better? So Judge Howarth, before I got up here, said to me, "You better keep it short, little Flexner." So I'm going to do my best. But it really is an honor for me. My dad was a recipient of this award in 2005, and I got up and said a little bit about him. It's completely different and unique today to be introducing my brother. But last night, over cocktails in the Bond Library, my classmate Bill Harden, he came up to me and he said, "Well, so is your family the first family to have 2 inductees?" And I was like, "I don't know, Bill." So after midnight, when we got back from dinner last night, I'm poring over the list that you have before you to check that fact out, the fact check. And it turns out that my dad's classmate, Bobby Gilliland, of 44, and his brother, John Gilliland, of 50, were a brother team that both were recipients of the award. And I mention these things because of the rich history here at Webb. I was touched today, Stan talks about coming home. Well, Henry Huddleston, my classmate, whose father was inducted into the society in 1995 from the class of 50 with Wayne Rogers, is here today after 40 years. And he said that he came just because he wanted to be here to see this. So Webb is a special place, no doubt about it. Well, you can read in the program all the incredible accomplishments of my brother, and I'm here to tell you that is just the icing on the cake. And I want to focus on the cake today so that you can get the sense of my brother, the brother, not the doctor. When I went to Julia Green School in Nashville, many of you went there, Mrs. Craig was my first grade teacher. And I'm the baby of the family, so I was the last in line of 4 kids. And Mrs. Craig, if you can imagine, she was the classic old first grade school mom. She had the whole black horn-rimmed glasses, the hairnet. She had been teaching in Julia Green School first grade for over 40 years. So if you can imagine a cross between Dorothy Elkins and Sandra Truitt, that's Miss Craig. So now you have Miss Craig in your mind. Okay. After she had taught me for an entire year, she came up to me and said, "Morris," she said, "you and your brother Lindsay and Ann are really smart." But she said, and I've never told my brother this until today, she said, "Your brother Charles is the smartest kid I've ever taught." So that kind of sets the stage. And then in football at Julia Green in the 5th and 6th grade, I was texting Charles about this because I couldn't remember his football coach's name in 5th and 6th grade, but it was Coach Warfield. And I remember Coach Warfield, after practice one day, I was standing next to my dad, and he said to my dad, he said, "Dr. Flexner," and he was one with, you know, the military style haircut, very intense coach. He said, "Your son Charles is not the most athletically gifted kid I've ever had, but," he said, "he's the only kid I've ever had that everything I told him to do, he did exactly what I told him to do on the field." And so that also has stuck with me. And then it wasn't many more years after that that I think my brother Lindsay and I had been playing down at the creek at the end of our street. Came back into the house. I was probably a first grader, you know, covered in mud. And there in our living room sat Charles. And he had the Encyclopedia Britannica open. And I think he was on letter L or N. He probably remembers which one to this day. But I looked at him and I was like, "Charles, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Well, obviously I'm reading." And the thing about Charles is he read the Encyclopedia Britannica from A to Z and remembered everything that was in it. So we would be sitting there in front of the TV in Jeopardy, and it was like boom, boom, boom. I never even got to answer a question because he got every one right. And because of that, like, everyone gets all excited about smartphones, right? And those of us that are the members of the class of '79 remember that a Congressman, Al Gore, gave our commencement address, and he invented the internet, right? Well, I'm here to tell you that my brother invented the smartphone, because growing up, all I had to do was Google Charles. And it goes on from there. We would plan these family trips. In the month of August every year, my dad would take 4 weeks off, and we would go to Glacier National Park. We would go out to Yellowstone. We would go to the Grand Tetons in Montana. We went everywhere. And so my brother, the first trip we went on, I think I was like 6 years old, which would have put him at about 10. My parents took the AAA triptych maps. They laid them into my brother's lap, and they were like, "Charles, you're in charge." Notice they didn't give them to my older brother Lindsay. Charles got the maps. And so we would be driving on these trips, and Charles would be like, "Dad, you need to turn at this next exit." My dad would be driving, distracted, and, "Dad, you need to turn." Dad would miss the exit. And then it was always, "Charles, GD, why did you let me miss that exit?" And then there would be this pause, and Charles would be poring over all these plan view maps and triptychs, and we'd all be in the back, you know, as normal kids making noise, and he would be like, "Quiet, everyone, I'm recalculating." So not only did I have a smartphone, but I had a built-in Garmin Newbie growing up. So, like, none of that's a big deal for me, but, and it gets better from there. The year that my dad was inducted here in 2005, Charles I was cleaning out my office and I found a few things, and this was one of them. He handed me this. This is where the reading glasses come into play. And it was one of his first books entitled Antiretroviral Drug Interactions, A Practical Approach. And I got it, and there are all these little squiggly things on the front, so I'm like, well, I got to open it and at least find out what the squiggly things are, right? It says cover image, cytochrome P450 molecule, PDB 1WOE from Williams, PA et al. Crystal structures of human cytochrome P450-3A4 bound to metropone and progesterone science, 2004. And then I'm like, well, I at least need to try to like read page 1. And page 1 is a table, and it says antiretroviral agent characteristics, drug name, nucleoside reverse transcriptase inhibitors, NRTIs. I was like, yeah, bro, I'm going to write a book report and get back to you on that one. So one of the things that I didn't know about our family history, we had a great Uncle Abraham. He wrote the Flexner Report circa 1914. Charles knows the history and can give you all the details, but the bottom line is he was a very smart man. And I see Tim Wilson out in the crowd, and Tim actually, I think, reached out to me on Facebook because he had found this quote from this guy named Abraham Flexner, and it was entitled, "The Usefulness of Useless Knowledge." And Tim just wanted to know, are you related to this Flexner? And I was like, yeah, he's my great uncle. He was at the Institute for Advanced Studies in Princeton, and he recruited this guy with this white frizzy hair that came up with this formula, E equals MC squared. I don't know, some of you may have heard of it. But the dude's name was Albert Einstein, yeah. And I feel compelled to read you just my favorite part of my great uncle's essay from 1939, because it speaks into my brother, it speaks into my family, and it speaks into this school and what the school is all about. So I'm just going to read it. It says, "Thus it becomes obvious that one must be wary in attributing scientific discovery wholly to any one person. Almost every discovery has a long and precarious history. Someone finds a bit here, another a bit there. A third step succeeds later, and thus onward till a genius pieces the bits together and makes the decisive contribution. Science, like the Mississippi, begins in a tiny rivulet. To their respective activities will probably be found to lie not so much in the training of men who may tomorrow become practical engineers or practical lawyers or practical doctors, but rather in the fact that even in the pursuit of strictly practical aims, an enormous amount of apparently useless activity goes on. Out of this useless activity there come discoveries which may well prove of infinitely more importance to the human mind and to the human spirit than the accomplishment of the useful ends for which the schools were founded. The considerations upon which I have touched emphasize, if emphasis is needed, the overwhelming importance of spiritual and intellectual freedom. I have spoken of experimental science, I have spoken of mathematics. But what I say is equally true of music and art and every other expression of the untrammeled human spirit. The mere fact that they bring satisfaction to an individual soul bent upon its own purification and elevation is all the justification that they need. And in justifying these without any reference whatsoever, implied or actual, to usefulness, we justify colleges, universities, and institutes of research. An institution which sets free successive generations of human souls is amply justified whether or not this graduate or that makes a so-called useful contribution to human knowledge. A poem, a symphony, a painting, a mathematical truth, a new scientific fact, all bear in themselves all the justification that universities, colleges, and institutes of research need or require. So, my brother, over the years, has poured out that concept into his students. So for all those amazing accomplishments that you read in the program, think of all the other students, just like here at Webb, think of all the Webb students that have gone out into this world and done amazing things. And that is kind of at the foundation of it. So I'm getting to the end, Homeworth, so just be calm, it's going to be good. There's two pieces of scripture that come to mind with my brother, and I'm just going to read them both quickly. One is James 1:19, which says, "My dear brothers, take note of this. Everyone should be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry." And my brother epitomizes that. He's the most incredible listener I've ever been around. And he is one of, undoubtedly, the most patient men that I've ever been around. So There's that one. And then the other one is John 15:13, which, if I can find it here, says, "Greater love has no one than this, that he lay down his life for his friends." And not only is that true of my brother, but I feel like it's true of the class of '74. Many of you may not know this, but they get together every year. I've been around a lot of other Webb classes. I've never seen a camaraderie and a bonding like this class has. And I would dare to say that they would take a bullet for my brother. Well, maybe Judge Howarth, maybe he wouldn't. Maybe if it happened in Oxford, he might come to the hospital the next day to check on Charles. Yeah. But no, seriously, that's the magic of this place. And the last thing that I want to say is, and I came up here with a lot of props, but I want to talk about staying power, because coming up here made me think, what is it that makes a person distinguished? And it's all the things we've talked about. You know, you have a gift of intellect, but you have to somehow put it to good use. But then it's the staying power, because I was thinking about this. So I've got this pewter mug up here that I tried to clean up. But it's my grandfather, Morris Flexner, MD. This is from 1914 to 1964. It's the Jefferson County Medical Society recognizing my grandfather for 50 years of medical service. Well, in my house sits a 50-year chair from Vanderbilt University. So probably about 10 years before my grandfather received this award, my dad was at Vanderbilt starting his career. He spent 50 years there, finished somewhere around 2004, 2005. I had the honor and privilege to be there when my dad hooded my brother at Johns Hopkins, and it was 3 generations of Johns Hopkins doctors, my grandfather, my father, and my brother. And I know that my brother has posted more than 30 years of time at Hopkins. And I have no doubt that if he stays healthy, they'll be pushing 150 years of flexters in medicine. And that's just, that's an amazing thing. And so, back in the old days when we used to get book awards at the end of the year and get little trinkety pewter mugs, I felt that it was appropriate today to bring this to my brother as a reminder of what he represents to me and what he represents to the family and to the Webb School community. And so I'm going to end this, Andy. I know that makes you happy, by saying one simple thing. I would take a bullet for you, bro. I would take a bullet for you. And I love you more than words can describe or express. So ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the 2019 Distinguished Alumni Award recipient, my brother, Dr. Charles Flexner. Thank you. Thanks, Mark. I really enjoyed listening to that. You reached several good stopping points. I asked Morris not to tell embarrassing stories about my childhood, and of course he failed miserably. It was a great introduction and a lot to live up to. I want to thank Webb for this recognition. Although I'm the first person from my class to be inducted into the Distinguished Alumni Association here, I'm certain that I will not be the last. As Morris mentioned, we have a very distinguished group of individuals in my class, many of whom are here today.
We have a circuit court judge from the state of Mississippi, Judge Andy Howarth. We have the chief medical officer and chief of staff at Pardee Memorial Hospital, David Ellis. We have a published poet, multiply published poet, and radio talk show host, David Oates, and I'm holding his latest publication today. It's got some squigglies on it too. They're a little more attractive than the squigglies on my book, but an amusing read nonetheless. We have the chair of a Department of Electrical, Computer, and Systems Engineering, Tim Wilson. Not with us today, but certainly here in spirit is David Rozelle, who got a PhD in chemistry from Harvard and founded a very successful biotechnology company, and on and on and on. I won't go through the rest of the class, but it really is an amazing group of people, and I'm proud to be a part of it. I thought a lot about what I was going to say this morning, and I concluded pretty quickly that I was not going to talk about my career. If you're interested, you're just going to Google me. In fact, if you're under the age of 50, you're probably Googling me right now. Instead, what I'm going to do is say a few words about Webb School, what Webb School means to me. And most of what Webb School means to me is sitting at these two tables in the back. It's my classmates. As Morris said, there's a group of us who get together every year. We come here every 5 years, but we get together on our own every year. That time is sacred for us. It's something that, unless there's a family emergency or a death or something else, you are expected to be there, and you are there. We went to this school at what I would characterize as a rather dark time in its history. We went through the dismissal of the headmaster, and there was the dismissal of the headmaster right before we got here, so that was 2 in a row. It's not a good record. There was quite a bit of upheaval amongst the faculty, although I think we had amazing teaching regardless of that. But what that period did is it made us who we are. It taught us a lot about the value of leadership. And I think it made us all better leaders because we had to be. But more important than that, it taught us the meaning and the value of friendship. What it means to be a true friend, what it means to be a lifelong friend. We've been through a lot. Divorce, cancer, the death of a spouse, sadly on more than one occasion. And this past November, we lost one of our original group, Douglas Fouts, which was a big loss and a big surprise for all of us. I want to recognize his daughter, Leanne, who is with us today. Through it all, though, I knew this group would always be there for me, and I hope they know that I'm always there for them. Whenever I had a family funeral, and I've had several in the past few years, I never knew which one of these guys was going to be there. But I always knew there would be at least one, and usually more than one. So I think what Webb means to me, it means friendship. And if I have one piece of advice for those of you who are recent graduates of this institution, be very careful who your friends are, because you may be stuck with them for a really long time. Now, this last story is going to sound like I made it up for this event, but it's actually true. It relates to this school. When my late wife, Carol, was going through cancer chemotherapy, and I needed strength, I walked my dog in the woods every day, and that was often my period of searching for personal strength. I would recite this. Integer vitae, scelerisque purum, Non eget marlis, jaculus nec arcum, nec venenatus gravidas agitus fusque ferretrum. He who is upright, kind, and free from error needs not the aid of arms or men to guard him. Safely he moves with shield of truth and honor, strong in his virtue. Though he may search uncharted depths of ocean, or climb to heights before not dreamed or dared, or seek for truths in world to us yet hidden, God will sustain him. That was written 2,500 years ago, not in 1939. But it's really inspirational poetry today. In fact, I recited that so many times, I actually came to believe it. But Ovid got one thing wrong. It is not just God who sustains us. It is our friends, our loved ones, and our classmates. I feel very blessed to be a part of this group, and I really appreciate this honor. Thank you.